Welcome to Pharaoh's Technology. Today we're going to talk about databases, what they are, and kind of how they evolved a bit. Let's go. So databases really started when we needed to capture more and more data. So in the 60s and 70s, you had mainframe databases, mostly built by the IBMs of the world to accomplish the holding and capturing of information and data as the world began to computerize. Big retail stores would have a computer closet or a room that had these massive computers in it, and they would have some rudimentary database in it. And during that time, two people, Raymond Boyce and Edgar Cobb, got together to try to define what a database really is and how it can be used most effectively. Really, they started from the idea that a database is a multiple table spreadsheet. So a spreadsheet has, columns in the top and rows here, and they called the cells in Excel, they called them fields. So you had now in a database, like let's say Microsoft Access here, in a database you have things called tables here, and then you have columns, and then each record along the row is a record, and within each record it has multiple fields. Now, with the development of relational databases, Boyce and Cobb defined how databases would be constructed, and they began being called relational databases. And these relational databases then brought forth a language to talk to the data called SQL or SQL, Structured Query Language. So you could query the data, so you could put those tables together. And if you had an address table where you had just everybody's addresses, it could be separate from the customer order table where each record in the address could have multiple orders in an order table. And so the relational database was born out of the idea that we wanted to have data that was compact. We didn't want to have this massive spreadsheet-like flat file database where every time we took an order from a customer, we re-entered the address and the city and the state and the zip and did all of that information in every single record. So relational databases had queries that would put the data back together, separating each bit of information by subject in a separate table. Then you could put forms on top of it. And the forms allowed the user to easily put data into the database. And then reports helped you pull that data out and get information out of that data that allowed you to present it to managers or other people that needed collated information. Then after a while, there was a need for automation, and macros began being built on top of databases. Macros that would execute various functions, such as executing a query here and then executing a report after the query there, moving up the ladder to a position where you could have multiple things happening underneath the scenes, putting everything together so that the user could have their report. Then after a while, there was a need for even more robust automation than that. It wasn't just good enough to execute a function or execute a query. You needed then to be able to manipulate the data in certain ways. And Visual Basic was then put on top of many database structures to be able to add coding to it, to move data and stretch data in ways that had never been able to be done by a simple query and macros that could run those queries. So all in all, a database started as a spreadsheet and eventually evolved into a relational database that was managed by relational database managers such as Microsoft Access, SQL Server, Oracle, and MySQL in the web space, and many, many other databases that do even more than just relational database design. Data warehouses, and large data lakes where you have no SQL coding. Databases have grown and evolved over time to meet the needs of our data-rich society. So I hope this helped. Hit that like button if you like what you see here, and hopefully we'll see you again in our channel later. Thanks.